Alrighty then. So, okay, with no further ado, let's get into it. Okay, the koan for today is a dance, and I have two koans because I'd like to draw from also the householder koans koan book, which is more like this is like classic old guys, like from 1,000 years ago, and then the householder koan is mostly middle-aged women from LA from today or something like that, right? I don't know. But anyway, stark contrast and kind of the vibe. I mean, or the I don't know the setting, but the vibe, is the same. Zen, right? Transmission, right? The same transmissions. Um, so anyway, but it is refreshing to have those koans really kind of like give us a context that's more relevant and current often. You might see the difference here. Like, okay, so a dance, called a dance. 93. It's like a koan I forgot about. It was like reading it for the first time here almost. Number 93 in the Blue Cliff Records book. A monk asked Taiko when Shoki said, celebration on the occasion of a meal. What did that mean? Taiko did a dance, like in response. The monk bowed to him. Taiko said, what did you see that you bow? The monk did a dance. Taiko said, you wild fox sprite. Right? Glad it makes so much sense. So it's in a kind of a classic esoteric Zen style where it's a teacher and a student. And so this is like the stories of awakening and enlightening come out of this, or stories of non-enlightening, right? So we see where the monk is not enlightened. And so we learn from that either way. So this dance is actually fairly subtle and esoteric. And I wouldn't claim to understand the subtleties of it. And part of it is this vagueness, some of these, a lot of vagueness in some of these koans, where it's like, it sounds like he's giving a compliment, but the commentators say that he's like just completely trashed him. Like, I can't tell, right? And so like in here it says, so I thought it was fine, right? I thought it was fine. And then they were bagging on him. They're like saying, oh, the monk is so unenlightened. Which so anyway, it brings up this idea that there's stages of practice. There's many stages of practice. And so for a monk, like on his first day, right, that would be like, oh my God, that was his first day. And he gave this sort of like intermediate answer. Like, wow, that would be impressive. But it's not, right? It's like he's intermediate monk, right? And so his answer should be, if he saw the oneness, his answer would be more adept. But he's not seeing that. And so they're bagging on him like he's a fool. But he's not. And so the concept of, okay, so the koan, he says, what is a celebration? Celebration that he's talking about. And basically it's like the chants they do after a meal. And so he's saying, why is service? We're doing service. Why is that a celebration? And so the teacher answers with a dance. I assume to celebrate, right? He's like, this is a real celebration. Like, we're dancing. This is life. It's the dance of life. It is exciting and fun. And it's always a celebration. I think that's the point he's making. And the monk bows, right? And I think the point they're making, the commentators are saying, when the monk bows to him, there's a separation. He doesn't join in the dance. He's not like, hey, right, I see that. I get what you're seeing, and I'm going to participate in that because I get it. He's like, oh, you gave me a teaching, and so I'm going to bow to you. which is removed from participating in the dance. And so I think that's what they're bagging on him for. So the teacher questions him, what did you see that you bowed to me? And that to me, that's the most important part of the koan, is the teacher checking that understanding. Well, what did you see? And I think that's kind of the main point I'm wanting to make in this talk, is that we need somebody to ask that question. That is our practice. Our practice isn't to sit until we just experience oneness alone. Our practice is to constantly do this dance, constantly put ourselves out there, engage, and get feedback. We need someone to ask us, what did you see? Because it's so easy to get things wrong if we don't have that check. And so the monk bows and he says, what did you see? And the student does a dance. Like, this is what I saw. And he mirrors him. He kind of copies what he did. Which again, in another context, might be a brilliant answer. Might be the best answer there possibly is in another context. In this one, they call that mimicking, or they call it he's copying him. So they bag on him for that. It's like, oh, he doesn't see it, so he just made a copy. He just copied the answer. And again, right? We need to copy. We need to be able to copy teachers. We need to be able to model behavior and model actions and model learning service positions. Everything we do is about copying, right? That's what form is. Form is copying whoever is a little more advanced than you until you get to their level. And so it's disappointing, right? I think the commentators aren't seeing the deeper level of the value of copying. And so he finishes this what is it? If the waves of the river of Zen were alike, endless ordinary people would get bogged down. So he's saying everybody needs to do your own practice. You need to make this practice your own. Give your own answers. Make the answers your own. Don't copy other people. Which is a fair point. It's a fair point, right? We don't want to. Buddhism is about experiencing it for ourselves. It's not about hearing what other people say and just believing it or following it or repeating it. It's about experiencing it for ourselves. But within that, I think copying is an essential practice. So I encourage that, right? I encourage all of you to practice being the Buddha. And so that brings me to the next koan that's from the householder koans. And this is called Kit's New Practice. Let's see, I just had it. It just disappeared. Okay. All right, Kit's New Practice from the Zen Center of LA. Where on the compass do you find being human? North, south, east, west, look up, then down, or just Google. So Kit asked the teacher, what practice should I follow now? The teacher answered, pretend to be human. But I am human, protested Kit. That is why you must pretend, replied the teacher. And so the koan, let me see. The koan, it goes on to talk about, let's see. It's a child, right? It's a 5-year-old, is Kit. A friend's 5-year-old crawled on her knees. Ruff, ruff. I asked her what she was doing. I'm pretending. Are you pretending that you're a cat? No, silly, I'm pretending to be a dog. How are you doing that? Ruff, ruff. I liked the game so much that the next day I pretended to be a human. I got up in the morning and took a shower. I made myself some coffee and did meditation. I said good morning to my husband and fed the dog. And so this aspect of pretending as a practice, I think is so great and wonderful. The idea of fake it till you make it. It's a popular idea, and it's usually, I don't know if it's bagged on or not, but the idea is that there's a difference between faking it and making it. And so part of what I'm suggesting here is that there is no difference, that we're all always faking it. And there's like rare moments when we feel like we're not faking it and we look like we're not faking it and it seems like it's legit or authentic. But that's the illusion, is that there's some authentic place or space or action that we can do, or an authentic teaching that we can get. And so from that standpoint, the teacher, right, who's sort of judging the student for being a novice is faking it just as much as the student. The teacher is just doing what he learned from his teacher. There's no authentic action or intention. We're all just doing our best in this ridiculous circumstances in life to figure out what's going on. And if we're lucky, we can take some leadership somewhere along the way and act like a leader, and people will listen to us talk if we're lucky. But we're all faking it, and we're all making it. So from that standpoint, right, again, it's so important to have people to pretend with. And it's so important to be able to practice and have a space to practice and pretend, and a teacher who will check our understanding. Someone will say, "What did you see?" Hopefully with a little more compassion for a bad answer. It's like, oh, you copied me. Good job. It's wonderful. It's an expression of oneness. To do exactly what you're doing, to mirror what you're doing, is an expression of oneness. I think it could be the best answer. And a bow, right? To bow is to honor something that's a celebration. And so the question is, what do we are we pretending not to pretend? Where do I feel like I'm comfortable or an expert or a leader, or I know what I'm talking about? or I feel confident. Man, I tell you, the first sign I have that something's not right is I feel great. Or I feel right. I just have that sensation of my energy just relaxes in a certain way, or like, oh, I just know I'm right about that. It feels so good. That's when I know I'm completely opening the door to big trouble. And so now I see that as pretending, right? It's a fake. When I think I've got it right and I got the answer right, that's when I know I'm faking it, because I feel like I'm not faking it. So it's very important. It's taken me so many years to get this on a subtle level where, I better do something quick, because I know I hurt somebody's feelings, or I said something wrong, or I made a mistake, or I forgot some responsibility. I should not feel this light. It's taken me so many years to get that sensation for myself, right? For everybody, it's different. So for whatever is for you, when you feel like you're not pretending or you're right, check yourself. Have somebody who can say, well, what are you seeing? And so pretend, right? Pretending to be the Buddha. So it's what everybody else is doing. Yeah, so anyway, to close with that, I invite you all to really practice pretending, practice practicing. I dare you to pretend to follow the schedule. Few of us have tried to pretend that, and it's overwhelming. It takes everything we got to just be on time for the schedule every day. It's almost impossible, because it takes working through all of my anxiety and grandiosity and anger and fear and sadness. It takes working through all of that just to be on time consistently, to a practice. It's different than being on time to work. Being on time to something that we often don't want to do and we don't have to do. So I think that's all I got. Pretend to be a Buddha.